We'd love to hear it. Email or call us, or send us your feedback through social media.
This is Rogers TV.
Was that 4 or 5? He's lost count and still thinks he can drive. Do you think he knows that when he is caught and charged with impaired driving, he'll lose his license and a lot more? If he gets in his car, he'll face costs exceeding $20,000. Does he realize he could have a criminal record for his choice to drive? And it could be much worse if he crashes. Wonder what he'll be thinking tomorrow.
Visit ArriveAlive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive. Drive sober.
With clubs, leagues, and courts in every province and territory across Canada, squash is the sport for wall-to-wall fun, fitness, and friendship. From coast to coast to coast. Learn to play and you'll want to do it every day. Squash. Play inside the box.
This is Rogers TV.
With clubs, leagues, and courts in every province and territory across Canada, squash is the sport for wall-to-wall fun, fitness, and friendship. From coast to coast to coast. Learn to play and you'll want to do it every day. Squash. Play inside the box.
You're watching Rogers TV. This program is brought to you by Rogers Xfinity, connecting you to more of what you love. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Of the debate for the District of Gander. My name is Brian Mosher. I'm one of the hosts of NL Direct, the current affair provincial show on Rogers Television.
And I'm Hannah DeYoung. So good evening and welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us in person and hopefully online and on TV. We want to start by just welcoming you to the Gander and Area Chamber of Commerce Provincial Political Forum. It's a bit of a mouthful, don't try to say that a few times. So off the top, huge thank you to our two candidates for being here tonight. So we have the Liberal candidate, Bettina Ford, and we have the PC candidate, Tom Healy. So huge thank you for joining. We just want to put on record that we did invite the NDP candidate, Justin Foley, to attend this evening. However, he was unable to attend.
Now, tonight's forum will be in two parts. After opening statements, we will ask a series of questions on some of the key issues in the elections. Most of these questions, by the way, have been submitted from the general public. In some cases, we've actually combined questions or simplified it to fit the allotted time on television. We're doing things a little bit different tonight, so we're going to really dig deep into our candidates' platforms. We're also going to be asking some very sort of funny personal questions as well, not just hard-hitting issues, so that you can get a gauge as to who these people truly are. After a short break, we'll be taking questions from the floor, and to be fair, we will draw names to determine who comes forward to ask a question. If you'd like to ask a question, you haven't submitted your name, right back there in the back right-hand corner is the place to submit your name. Please go do it now if that's your intent to ask a question from the floor tonight. And I guess now it's time to get down to our debate. So earlier today, we drew numbers to determine the order in which the candidates will speak.
So both candidates will be on a timer this evening to ensure everyone has the same opportunity to speak. And we ask that you hold your applause till the end of each individual question. The response from the public has been outstanding, and we thank everyone who sent in their questions and for the engagement going into tonight. We wish we could have used them all, but we would be here all day, and I don't think any of us want that. We also just want to say a huge thank you to the candidates for being open to this forum, a little more casual. We wanted to make sure that you had a chance to get to know them personally, as well as their views on key topics this election. So we're excited to get underway. Let's start by checking in with our candidates.
So as we said previously, we drew numbers earlier, and tonight we'll start with PC candidate Tom Healy for the opening remarks. He will be followed by Liberal Bettina Ford. Please introduce yourself to the audience, and you will each have 2 minutes for your opening remarks. Mr. Healy, the podium's yours.
Hi everyone, my name is Tom Healy and I'm your PC candidate for the District of Gander. This is a sentence that I have said to thousands of people that I meet at your door and throughout the district or anywhere else that we may have met, be it Gambo, Benton, Gander, Appleton, and Glenwood. I want you to know that I take those words, I don't take them lightly. And with the past contributions that I have to this is just the next step for me in my commitment to the district. I am not a groomed politician who has spent countless hours in front of the camera learning the intricacies of the political world. But what I lack in political experience, I more than make up with my ability to work with people on many levels, such as being on organizing committees for local, provincial, national, and international organized events. And these include the 2024 Newfoundland and Labrador Winter Games and the 2025 Special Olympic Summer Games in Gander. I am grounded. I am not looking to be flashy or extravagant. I just want to help people in the District of Gander and Newfoundland and Labrador as a whole. I want to be your strong voice in the House of Assembly, as far too many people have told me that they don't feel heard. I want to listen to your concerns and represent you based on what you have told me. We have to right the ship when it comes to putting money back in your pockets, repairing a broken healthcare system, and ensuring that Newfoundlanders and Labradorians feel safe in their communities. I believe that a PC government under the leadership of Tony Wakeham has the right plan to put the province back on course. And I want to be a part of that team as your MHA in the House of Assembly. Thank you.
Your Liberal candidate, Bettina Ford. Bettina.
Good evening. My name is Bettina Ford, and I'm campaigning with support from incredible volunteers to gain your trust and confidence to be the next MHA for Gander District, your voice in the House of Assembly. A little bit about me. I was born and raised in Gander, the daughter of Arthur and Betty Ford, and I have one brother, Tom. Except for my years in university in Ottawa, Gander has always been my home. My husband of 24 years, Kevin Scott, who I imported from England, worked in the local aviation industry, and we're raising two sons, Joseph and Robert. For over 2 decades, I've worked for a charity, the Community Sector Council Newfoundland and Labrador, most recently as manager of capacity building. I teach effective governance workshops and volunteer management courses. I've trained leaders across Newfoundland and Labrador and helped inform and shape public policy. Prior to CSCNL, I worked with the Regional Economic Development Board. At 22, I was elected to Gander Town Council. After 2 terms, I stepped back to focus on starting a family and building my career. In 2001, I returned to council with new perspectives, shaped by parenting, caring for aging parents, and community involvement and relationships. And I've served as deputy mayor for the past 4 years. I share this. It's because of that foundation in municipal governance that now, having turned 50, I'm ready to step into the provincial scene. Gander District has a lot of exciting opportunities, tremendous growth to manage, and challenges that accompany those. We need someone with experience to navigate these complex systems. Working with others to help people and grow communities, it's what I do as a career, as a counselor, and as a volunteer. I'm really looking forward to the conversations tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Bettina and Tom. So before we dive into the heavy topics, let's start with a little bit of a lighter question. We know you're both very busy, but when you do get some downtime, what is your favorite hobby and why do you enjoy it? Let's start with you, Bettina.
So for anybody who knew my dad, AKA the Berry Man, Art Ford, this won't be a surprise. One of my favorite things to do, we spend a lot of time on side-by-side in the great outdoors, picking blueberries, and I'm missing out on some partridge berries, but campaigning has been more important to me than the berries. I'm just glad I have some still frozen from last season.
Great. Tom, same question to you.
Personally, when I have some downtime, I'm an avid pin collector. So I've collected pins from all over the world, from all types of sports, communities throughout the province. Anytime I can get someone to pick me up a pin here or there, that's what I'm doing. I also, with those pins, I've been framing them lately, so I've got a wall that looks pretty good right now.
I was going to say, how many do you have?
I've got well over 5,000 of them right now.
I have 6,000 partridge berries.
That should do you for winter, hey.
So hopefully you both enjoyed the warm-up act, just to get your tonsils all loosened up. Now we get down to the nitty-gritty, and let's have fun. So let's get into what we came here for tonight, to hear the candidates, what they think about the important issues in the election. Hannah, you want to take the first question?
Thanks for keeping me on track here. There's a lot of paper, so it's a long hour and a half. All right, so the Churchill Falls MOU has been a hot topic this election cycle and before it. The agreement between Newfoundland and Labrador Hydro and Hydro-Quebec is set to create thousands of jobs for people in our province and increase the province's annual revenue. Some residents have questioned why this project has been prioritized in comparison to maybe other projects, but generally, what are your thoughts on this topic? So Bettina, we will start with you.
Hi, thank you for that question. So my thoughts on the MOU, just to be clear, it is at this point a memorandum of understanding. There has not been a deal done. I'm very excited about it. All my life, I've heard about the 1969 deal with Quebec and how Newfoundlanders and Labradorians have been robbed. The Liberal government is the first government in decades to be able to bring Quebec to the table, willing to renegotiate the deal. The deal is not up for another 17 years, but Quebec is in a vulnerable position right now, needing access to power. And rather than build in Quebec, they know that building in Newfoundland and Labrador, this is where the opportunity is for clean energy. So we have this opportunity now to open up that deal, to renegotiate it, and it means the difference in our province receiving $20 million a year currently for the next 17 years to the province receiving $1 billion a year as soon as the deal is signed, which would take in those 17 years, in addition to lengthening that contract, the new Churchill Falls deal. I'm excited about it because the needs in Newfoundland and Labrador are enormous, and this is the revenue we need to meet those needs.
Tom.
From my side of this, the PC Party are open to developing Churchill Falls and Gull Island. The problem we have right here is the lack of transparency in the process. We want an independent review board to have a look at the MOU and dig deeper into that. Mike Wilson just quit the panel saying that they were not going deep enough into the review of the MOU. So that's a red flag for us. One of the things with it is, yeah, we're looking at the $1 billion a year that they're talking about, but we're talking about 50 years. We went through that back when Joey Smallwood signed the original Churchill Falls deal, they may have thought it was a good deal, but we are left with 17 years left on that deal. So from Quebec's point of view, not only are they getting that 17 years, but they're getting an additional 34 years on top of that. So we want to have the independent review look at the deal and see if there are places where that we can make this better for the province of Newfoundland and Labrador.
Thank you, Tom. So, Bettina, Tom brought up the point about this independent review, and the PCs aren't the only ones calling for that. So what would your response be to that request?
My response is this isn't something that's happening fast or that's being fast-tracked. This deal, the negotiations on this started some time ago. How I feel is if the PC Party of Newfoundland and Labrador would take a stand on the Churchill Falls deal. Because what happened was, after debating for 17 hours in the House of Assembly, instead of the PC Party voting no on the deal, if it's a bad deal, the option was for them to vote no. But they didn't vote no, and they didn't vote yes. Instead, the PC Party got up and they left the House of Assembly. And that's your job as an MHA, to go to the House of Assembly and to vote. So I would ask, is it a bad deal? Is it not a bad deal? And to take a stand on that.
So Tom, what's your response to that?
I think the PC Party took a strong stand on that, to be honest with you. The call for a vote on it was not made while the PC Party was in the House at the time. And we're looking for that independent review. If we had said yes or no to that, that was making a stance on, if we said yes, without the independent review, then we're saying, okay, we agree with you, but we're telling you we don't agree with the fact that we haven't had a chance to look at this MOU properly. We couldn't say no because, frankly, we don't know if it's a good deal or not, and that was the purpose of requesting the independent review.
Thank you so much. Let's take a look at the second of our topics. And again, there are a lot of hot topics, as you're both aware, in this. Our next question's on healthcare, and it'll go to Tom to respond first. And the question is, with doctors and medical professionals finding work outside the province and vacancies open in medical facilities, what are your plans to fill those positions? What will you do to increase the supply of family doctors both in this province and I guess subsequently in your district?
Right now, we're looking at the fact that there are 163,000 people in the province without a family doctor. We've got to find a way to entice doctors, nurses, nurse practitioners to come to our district and stay. What's happening right now is we're getting doctors come for a while and they're leaving. We're not giving them incentive to stay here. We're looking at the fact that we've got travel nurses coming into our province. We paid out $241 million in travel nurses while our own nurses were here looking for gainful employment, and they were not getting permanent full-time jobs. I see that as a problem. We've got to invest in our students, our teachers, our healthcare, you name it, all across the board. We've got to put more investments in there. We've got to talk to the doctors and the nurses before they finish their schooling. We've got to offer them gainful employment when they are entering their programs, not waiting until they are finished their programs and offering them positions when they've already been accepting positions from other locations across the country. And we're seeing that all the time now, that other provinces are getting our nurses and doctors before we have a chance. We've got to increase the number of seats that we have in the nursing programs, the nursing practitioners, and we've got to find a way to keep them here. And I believe starting at the school level is the way to do it.
Thank you, Tom. Bettina?
Thank you. So when the Health Accord for Newfoundland and Labrador came out and the recommendations in it, one of those recommendations and the references was about central Newfoundland having one hospital on 2 sites. So James Payton Memorial Hospital here in Gander and the hospital in Grand Falls, Windsor. And currently a lot of recruitment is happening out of Grand Falls, Windsor. I see that as a very flawed process. Something that the Liberal government has committed to, a re-elected Liberal government, is to establish an entity that will be responsible for recruitment so that it's no longer at that local level. I support that because it's part recruitment, it's also marketing. I've been on the front lines of this. One of the roles that Mayor Farwell has is when doctors potentially interested in coming to the community, he takes them on tours of the community for dinner, puts in a significant amount of his personal time into that. And one time he wasn't available, and I was so happy because I was able to take family, 2 doctors in the family, and their 2 children around and take them to dinner. So someone said to me, with physicians or healthcare professionals, you recruit the medical professional, but you attract the family. And the 2 things that were most important to that family on whether or not they were going to settle in this community was a movie theater and gymnastics for their 2 children. So as a municipal councillor, of course, at the time, I was so proud that we were looking at recruitment in this wholesome view that, you know, we have a social enterprise who's running a movie theater at what would be otherwise orphan space up at the International Lounge, that we have a really active gymnastics program because that was what was so important to those children. So I think that's a real key. It's about recruiting the physician, the medical professional, and attracting a family. And I know from my time with municipalities in Newfoundland and Labrador, one of the things we don't want is we don't want individual communities offering so many incentives that a doctor would choose one community over another because then we're competing amongst ourselves for the same resource. So there has to be a better way, and I feel very confident in our government's decision to establish this entity that can really focus on recruitment in an unbiased way.
Let's just take a look now, putting the rubber to the road. So how do we get these people here? What do you see as the best way to fill these residency vacancies? And I'll throw to is it increased training opportunities? Is it fast-tracking the certification of immigrants? Is it some combination of the 2, or are there others? Tom, we'll start with you.
I think it's got to be a combination of both. Attracting immigrants for our medical system is something we've done for years, and it's something that has worked. We've got to add more seats for nurse practitioners and doctors in their programs. We've also got to make sure that we are giving them reasons to stay, like covering overhead costs when they have to set up shop. Problem I have with everything with this one is that we're talking about this at an election time. Just at the eve of an election is when we're worried about how are we going to attract new doctors and nurses. For me, the Liberal government has had 10 years to take care of this, and we are failing across the country. We have the worst healthcare system in Canada, and we can't be saying that we're going to do this, when we've had a track record as a Liberal government of not doing this. So I think it's time to put action as opposed to words.
Thank you, Tom. Bettina?
I take exception to that, Tom, and to what you said, because I've been on the front lines and I've been part of a community that has prioritized recruitment of medical professionals. At the municipal level, we've budgeted funding to help recruit and retain medical professionals. We have done events to celebrate medical professionals in this community. We've done lots of outreach, ways to make them feel valued and appreciated, hundreds of hours into providing tours of the community and connections with community groups. So I hear your point that this new entity that's being proposed to be established, but I'm okay with trying things, and when things aren't working and we're not getting the results we want, to pivot. So for me, this is a really great pivot, to take the recruitment out of the local area and to look at it now, because health, and we don't have the health boards, and it's one entity as NL Health Services, to go about it that way. But a lot of work is certainly being done.
I don't doubt it for a second that there's work to be done and being done, but to this point, there hasn't been enough. And like I said, on the eve of an election, and this is where we are right now.
All right, thank you to you both. Definitely a hot topic, not just at election time, hopefully, like you said, Tom. So let's get into the next category. So food is a great example of how the cost of living has definitely impacted all of us. I'm sure there's no one in this room that hasn't felt the impact of inflation over the last few years. So the question is, what role do you think the government should play in addressing this problem? And what will you do to help everyday people in these difficult financial times? So Tom, we'll start. Oh, Bettina, sorry, we'll start with you.
Yeah. So I guess you mentioned food, but we're thinking generally the cost of living. Yeah, and it's a big issue as I'm knocking on doors. I actually thought healthcare was going to be the one that I heard the most. I hear it a lot. But cost of living, and I'm hearing it across all generations, from young families to middle class to senior citizens, particularly people on a fixed income who don't have that opportunity to supplement their income in some way. So there are things that government can do. I know municipally we talk a lot about what levers are available. So some of the levers that are available to government are things around taxation. So for example, one of the things the Liberal government, if re-elected, has already announced is there will be a 10% reduction in electricity bills, and that's the provincial HST portion. So right away, that is a way that we can put money back in people's pockets. There's been an announcement made around school supplies being provided for children up to grade 6. Again, money in people's pockets, in the school lunch program. So when you think about food, there has been a lot of investment by government and also by the community, by the nonprofit sector, in helping to feed children so that no child is left to go to school hungry. So those are some of the things. There's other measures that government has already taken, particularly when it comes to seniors and supporting seniors. And we have to remember to look after vulnerable populations as well, right? There's a lot of work that is being done where the private sector and the public sector aren't meeting the needs, and we have the volunteer sector who steps up to fill in. So there's ways that we can support them as well in the good work that they do.
Thanks, Bettina. Tom, same question to you.
Well, I believe government are the curators of the people. It's our responsibility as elected officials to ensure that the pockets of our residents have money in them. We've got to find a way to ensure that your dollar goes further than it did yesterday, because it didn't go very far yesterday based on the taxes that we're having right now. We must help people out that are struggling. Our seniors on fixed incomes, some of them that I've talked to at the doors, they've talked about having to make a decision on electricity bills or food on the table. I don't think that that's good enough. As a PC government, we're looking at raising the seniors' benefit by 20% so that we can help them. Again, our vulnerable sector is who we are supposed to be here for. We're looking at the basic taxation for $15,000, up from, I think it's 11,818, I think it is. We're looking at removing gas tax permanently. Right now, it's removed by the government, but it is not there permanently. We've got the sugar tax. Yes, the sugar tax is gone, but the legislation is still there. So we want to find a way to remove the taxes that people are paying right now so that they can have a better way of life.
All right, so we only have about a minute and a half left on this topic, but I think it's worth just touching. I know it's a big topic, but if we could just touch on the question around housing specifically, because I know it's definitely an issue in our district. So what specific actions do you plan on taking to aid in the housing crisis? And we'll get, Bettina, if you can do this quickly, we'll...
Well, I may disappoint because given this is a debate, I do want to go back to a point that Tom just raised. I understand that this is election time, so the PC party and the Liberal Party are making promises. So making promises around the cuts that you just talked about and the increases for seniors. That's great. But I kind of liken it to me promising my children a trip to Disneyland without any plan to pay for it. That is where I see the difference in the choice right now that voters have, that the needs are there, but government only has so many ways to fund the needs that we have, and it's through taxation or other methods of revenue. So we have to have a source of revenue in order to meet these needs. On housing, I'll just say I've been really active on this file in my municipal world. Here in the town of Gander, we received $4.3 million through the Housing Accelerator Fund. So that is incentivizing housing. I know personally, I feel very committed to advocating and lobbying for an increase in Newfoundland and Labrador housing units in Gander. I think that we're behind in those units in terms of where we should be as a community, and we don't have a community center. So a lot of communities with Newfoundland and Labrador housing have that additional support, and I think that's important. But housing, there's this continuum of it, and there are roles for the different levels of government to play, for sure.
Okay, thanks, Bettina. So Tom, we'll give you the last word on this one.
Well, if we go back to the paying for the increases in benefits and reducing of taxes, let's just go to wastage. Wastage is where we're going to be able to find a lot of that. When you're looking at spending $241 million, now that's $1 million, on travel nurses, and what the Auditor General tells you that that's a red flag. So reducing wastage is one of the ways that you're going to be able to find money to pay for the things that the PC government is promising, if you want to call it that. And as it comes to housing, yeah, we know that we are 100 units short in Newfoundland and Labrador housing. If we can get that situation taken care of, we will have better ways of protecting our homeless.
Thank you to you both. Of course, again, so many topics, so we'll get right into the next one. First one, this, Tom, you'll be first to respond to this one. For many people, and this is on education, for many people, higher education is seen as a path to a better standard of living and greater job opportunities. What are your thoughts on the province's current education standards, and where do you think improvements should be focused?
Honestly, I'm beyond frustrated with the current education system. I'm looking today, we were at a rally, and it was concerning special needs children who need student assistance. Again, we're supposed to take care of those who can't take care of themselves. The vulnerable sector are those who we are supposed to be protecting. At the doors, I've been speaking with parents, teachers, student assistants, teacher assistants, and say that we've left this population behind. Someone who was eligible to have an assistant with them last year, this year, they're not entitled to that assistant. Tony Wakeham, our PC leader, came out today and announced that we will ensure that each student who requires a student assistant will have that student assistant. And it's not just for that student. I've had parents also tell me who have a child who needs that assistance that they're concerned about the other students that are in those classrooms. Because when a student does not have the assistant with them and they act up, well, we're affecting the education of everybody else in that classroom, not just that student. So it's our responsibility to provide them with the help needed and not be putting all of this on the teachers to take care of an entire class.
Thank you, Tom. Bettina?
Thanks. So I looked at this question a little bit differently. I took it to mean when you asked about educational standards versus educational supports. So I might come at it from a little bit of a different angle. So I mean, the education system and the changes, anyone here sweated through public exams? And, you know, so the reduction in public exams as one example, I think that that's something that's shifted. And I understand in Newfoundland and Labrador and across the country and even globally, there's a lot of conversations about how do we create critical thinkers, right? So maybe public exams weren't necessarily the answer to that, and how to develop those critical thinking, that we're not doing very well on those scores. In terms of improving that level of education, so people who want to pursue higher education, just to keep in mind as well that higher education doesn't always mean university for everybody or an English degree. I know that there are courses right now in high school like power and energy. And there are young people who really enjoy that program. It's hands-on, it's trade-related. And, you know, just to come back to the MOU, the new Churchill Falls deal, we're talking 10,000 new jobs in Newfoundland and Labrador, and a lot of them in the trades. So when it comes to education, and then like we have this whole cohort of youth who, because of COVID, missed a couple of years of regular schooling. So in programs that I deliver with the Community Sector Council Newfoundland and Labrador, we have teenagers who aren't able to look somebody in the eye. And it's not their fault. It's that they were out of school and out of that social environment for a couple of years. So the education system, I mean, STEM matters, but so do trades, and I would like to see us put some more emphasis on that, preparing for the future workforce that we have here in Newfoundland and Labrador.
Thank you, Bettina. If it comes to spending and looking at the outcomes that are deficient and means spending more money to get those outcomes where they need to be, are you in favor of that? Tom, we'll start with you.
We've got to get to that level. Whatever it takes to get us to that level, we've got to do it. Going back to the trades portion of this conversation, and the discussion about all of these jobs that are going to be coming with the MOU, we've got to understand something else with that. And I'm going to go off track here for a little second, is that Quebec is the one that is responsible for deciding who gets a job. Quebec will be the ones decide if we're going to develop Gull Island. So the MOU is bringing us to a point where we are gone back to relying on Quebec to let us have a piece of the pie. And we went 2 decades, and they did not want to give us a piece of the pie. And now, all of a sudden, they do. So when it comes to the jobs, I'm skeptical that all of those jobs that are being spoken about are going to actually come to Newfoundlanders and Labradorians.
Thank you, Tom. Bettina.
Well, all wars must come to an end at some point. So the war between Newfoundland and Labrador and Quebec, we've been there. We've been there since 1969. We feel cheated. This is an opportunity to correct, to right a historic wrong. When it comes to jobs, it's my understanding that Newfoundlanders and Labradorians are going to get first priority under the existing environmental assessment approvals and the hiring protocol. So we're talking an average of 3,000 direct jobs during construction, a peak of 5,000 direct jobs. This is transformative to Newfoundland and Labrador, not just the $1 billion a year coming in, but the spin-off effect of that kind of investment. Quebec is willing to build this. This is not Muskrat Falls. This is not a project of the PC government and Danny Williams, where the province of Newfoundland and Labrador put our money into it, built it, we borrowed, we paid for the overcosts, and now we're paying $500 and something million a year in the debt. This is different. Quebec is going to build this because they need it as much as we need it. This is now a partnership. The war on Quebec and Newfoundland and Labrador has to end.
So one more kick at it. If to get students ready for these jobs means putting more money into education for apprenticeship programs, liaisons with College of the North Atlantic and all the other colleges, to spend the money to make these students job ready, able to better tackle the world through better educational outcomes, are you in favor of it? Tom, we'll start with you.
Absolutely. The PC Party has already talked about having these pre-apprenticeship programs in schools, putting it there. You've got to start early. Everything that we want to do in this province, we've got to start early. We've been too many times that we've been behind the 8 ball, and if you have to invest into our children, please invest in our children.
Bettina.
I feel the answer people want to hear is absolutely. Of course. You know, as a mom, why would I not want every child in the education system to have everything that they need to succeed? But your question was really broad, Brian, no offense. Always. About, you know, for every child to get every single thing that they need. And if municipal politics has taught me one thing, there's stuff that I can commit to right now because Premier John Hogan and the Liberal Party of Newfoundland and Labrador have made the commitment. They've costed it. Those are things I can commit to. But as a candidate, it would be irresponsible of me to say I 100% commit to delivering all of those things that you just referenced. It may seem straightforward, but when you get in government, when you're at the table, and I can only compare this to my municipal experience, it's different because you do start looking at budgets and you start asking, if we take from here, where do we give and where do the resources come from? And what exactly are the needs that are being met and how are we assessing that? So what I can commit to is, as the next MHA for Gander District, if constituents in my riding have issues, I plan on running a very constituency-focused office. Jackie Watkins has done that for the former MHA here in Gander. I've begged her to stay on. She wants to retire, so she needs to train somebody. But I want to be very constituency-focused so that if someone is doing without, my job as an MHA is to try and hook them up with the resources, the supports, to advocate, to try and find ways to make that happen. But a blanket, absolutely, I can't give you that tonight.
Thank you so much. Hannah?
Okay, so we had some fun questions planned, but we're gonna keep going because we're gonna run out of time. We do that, yeah. So this topic is around crime. So we've seen a rise in nonviolent and violent crimes in our province. From the 2024 stats alone, we see about a 5% increase. Both party leaders have mentioned this, you know, in their campaign trail. I guess the question is, what do you plan to do, and is the difference between the Liberal and the PC platform on this very different? So I think we're starting with Bettina.
Hi, thanks. Yeah, crime is scary for everybody. We hear it from seniors, from parents with young children, and mischief and theft in particular have gone up. Not as much as some may report when it comes to like violent crime and that increase. I'm not quite sure. I don't have confidence in that statistic. But mischief and theft, definitely. And then violent crimes tend to be connected to drug use. And there's also a lot of intimate partner violence that's happening. So when we hear violent crimes, intimate partner violence is included in that. But it's so important that we think about the root cause of crime, right? Not always addressing what happens, the results, but the root cause of that. And interestingly, the social determinants of health are also really connected to the social determinants of safety, right? So people having income, having social status, employment, working conditions, education, literacy, their childhood experiences. So all of this. Some people may not be aware, but right here in the community of Gander and the surrounding communities, including Glenwood, Appleton, Gambo, and Benton, there's a $75,000 community safety planning initiative. So this is an initiative that Gander Town Council supported and received funding for. So even though it's led by the town of Gander, it's regional in focus, and the plan brings together law enforcement, health and social agencies, housing providers, schools, and community partners to look at the numbers so that any response can really be data-driven. I mean, how many times do I stop in a store and someone says, you know, these people in our community? But these people could be any family member, belong to any of us, and where do these people go? There has to be supports and services. So I really believe part of crime, and I mean, there's a whole lot that we could talk about here about policing, and there's an increase and a commitment to increase RCMP presence, particularly across parts of the province, like ours here in Gander District. But getting at the root cause and having those supports, that's the preventative measure that we need, driving a lot of this crime.
Thanks, Bettina. So Tom, what are the PCs planning to do around crime?
Well, first of all, when I moved here to Gander in 1999, it was nothing for us to go to bed with our doors locked or unlocked and our cars unlocked. Over the last 10 years, we've devolved to the point where we don't feel safe in our homes anymore. We're locking our doors. We're locking our cars. We're installing cameras now just because we're concerned about the crime in our area. The PC Party has committed to increasing police presence in our province. We're looking at hiring new police officers for the RNC to a level that has been seen in 10 years, and an extra 25 RCMP officers to be used outside of Metro St. John's. We want to reinstate community-based policing, where we're working with the communities to foster a good policing program with the communities and to help them feel safer. We want to expand the mobile mental health crisis teams in our province. As Bettina said, there is some of our crime is related to the mental health issues that some of our residents have. We need, again, to take care of those who can't take care of themselves. The mental illnesses or mental addictions, a lot of times that is where the root of the problem is. So if we can provide our residents with the treatments that they require, then we are able to put ourselves in a position where we can tackle the crime problem we have.
Okay, so let's move on to the next topic. So we have a little bit of time to get into that one before we have a break. Brian, over to you.
Okay, the next question is actually a two-part, but we're in Gander and it's about aviation, so we'll make it a two-part question. Of course, as you are aware, that's what we're known for, probably more than anything. So on a positive note, the Atlantic Wildfire Center of Excellence has been announced for Gander. How are you going to ensure that this center is built and delivers the benefits that are promised? At the same time, PAL Aerospace has announced the plan for an air ambulance to be based in St. John's, not Gander, although Gander is decentralized and air ambulance has always been running out of here. As a matter of fact, it has for years. This puts critical services further away from the patients who need it, none of whom live on the Avalon. What are your thoughts on these issues? Tom, we'll start with you.
Well, first of all, air ambulance has to be based out of Gander. Bringing it to St. John's, you're bringing it to an area where they're close to the hub of healthcare. I've watched, as I've been in the tower in Gander, I've watched friends of mine get taken out on a medevac. Response times, that is what it's all about. If we don't see Gander as the hub for our air ambulance, then we are not taking care of those people who need the use of life-saving medical treatments in St. John's. I've worked at the airport for all of my career in Gander. Watching how our firefighters work, watching the tankers go out to respond to fires, every time one would go by, I would say thank you or good luck. We have the facility here in Gander that we can house anything that's dealing with fire protection, forest fire protection. We watched it this summer, how critical that is right now. And it's only going to get worse. So we've got to ensure that all facilities that we can provide for the training and the fighting of forest fires in Central is done in Gander.
Thank you, Tom. Bettina.
Well, not to be argumentative not with you, Tom, with the question in this case, I think it's important to clarify that the question is a bit inconsistent with the announcement. So it doesn't accurately reflect what was announced. The provincial government did not say that Gander is being excluded from air ambulance operations. In the Health Accord, which I referenced earlier, that report related to this only mentioned St. John's and Goose Bay. So you can imagine at town council level and all of the stakeholders in the community, well, we all went, we all got really upset to see that this wasn't referenced. So in my role as deputy mayor and in working with all of council, because we were all really committed to this, we worked tirelessly to advocate for government to not accept that recommendation that was being made. That was just one. I mean, there was another recommendation about the location of obstetrical services and gynecology that we also had to get a community effort to rally and to have that change. So because of that local advocacy, especially from Gander area, the province has explicitly committed that Gander will form part of the new integrated system design. So when a release came out in September regarding the new Medivie Health Services contract, that was part of a broader plan to modernize and integrate the emergency medical transport across Newfoundland and Labrador. So just to be clear that there is a role for air transport for air ambulance in Gander, and government has committed to that. They've announced it. So I just wanted to touch on the Atlantic Wildfire, a second part. I'm really excited about the Atlantic Wildfire Center and its opportunity for this community. It's actually one of the reasons why I made the decision to run provincially, because I knew this was an opportunity municipally, and there's a really great opportunity for us to impact this. There's already been an announcement of $32 million from the provincial and federal governments. Part of that money is allocated to fix the additional water bomber, which was guaranteed long before the PC party committed to fixing the water bomber, because the money is there and it's allocated. But there's an opportunity here to bring like bird dog aircraft into our community. Maybe they're going to be government assets. Maybe they're going to be leased from a private operator. There might be opportunities here for hangar space, opportunities to train boots on the ground firefighters from across Atlantic Canada. So it's a humongous opportunity. The fact that this province experienced such devastating wildfires, this is good for Gander, but I believe it's really good for all of Newfoundland and Labrador as well.
Thank you, Bettina. So just to advocate, just to get the reassurance from both of you, you're both in favor, and your parties are both in favor of the 5th water bomber being repaired and put into service, and the acquisition of a bird dog, and to advocate to have it stationed right here in good old Gander Airport. Tom?
Absolutely. We've committed to fixing that downed water bomber. But let's be honest, it's been a long time down, and the government at the time had committed to fixing it, but we're many years later that has not taken place.
Thank you, Tom. Bettina?
And fortunately for the province of Newfoundland and Labrador and for Gander, our friends with the federal government, where all the money rests, came through and made that funding available to fix that water bomber. So I'm absolutely thrilled about that. And as for my support for the Atlantic Wildfire Centre, the Premier is already, I think, I don't want to say he's tired of listening to me, because we've only just begun. But it's something that I raise regularly already in our candidate group calls about one of the biggest issues and one of the needs and opportunities for this district.
Thank you, Bettina.
All right, well, that was an exciting first hour of our show. We're actually going to give the candidates a 5-minute break now. It's a lot to talk this long, so we're actually going to ask them to leave the stage, go drink some water, take a moment, and we'll get organized with the audience we have in-house to get the questions ready for when they come back in transition. So first, let's just say you guys can leave the stage. We don't have a bell like we're in school, but
We gotta come get you.
we'll find you, yeah. All right, so we covered a lot of topics, a lot of depth on the platform issues, so really great to hear from our candidates. So what we're going to do next is pull the names from the basket that has been brought to us from the front of house to see who will be asking the questions from the floor. So if you hear your name, please come forward to the microphone so that we can begin our questions as soon as the candidates are ready.
And we'll have those shortly, correct? Oh, we have them right there. Okay,
I'll just
that's in
give
fact
it a
shortly.
little shuffle here.
Shuffle, shuffle.
And Brian, do you want to
give
do
a little twist over and so on? So if you hear your name, I think the reserved seats are right there. So we are looking at young fella here in the audience, Gerald Saunders, representing the youth of Gander. 4, right?
4, yeah. This is so
Daryl
exciting.
Goff is our second one.
Yep, so if you hear your name, please come up to the front.
Let's go dig deep. Here we go. Ashley Way. And last but not least, you want to draw this one? Here, you draw one.
You're doing such a good job.
It's hard on the nerves. Agnes Richard. First time dealing in anything political? Agnes Richard.
All right, so we have our 4 names drawn. So those names will get to ask a question to our candidates when they come back. So while we give our candidates a few moments for a bit of a breather, we did want to remind everybody, since this is a Gander and Area Chamber of Commerce event, that they're having a very busy week, so they're not just hosting this forum tonight. They also have the Joe and Clarice Goodyear Business Achievement Award Gala Wednesday night. So we would be amiss if we didn't put a plug in there. So it's happening October 8th at the Gander Curling Club, and it's going to be a great night with live music and great food as they celebrate Gander and Area's business community. And there are still a few tickets available, so if you are interested, make sure you give the Chamber a call.
And later this month, as part of Small Business Week, please join the Chamber for a special one-day event called Central Business Connections that will be on Wednesday, October 22nd. It's a great opportunity for new and aspiring entrepreneurs as well as seasoned business veterans to learn from the experts in the industry on everything from work-life balance to financial management and business support opportunities. And to learn more, check out the Chamber's Facebook page. Reach out to them if you have any questions, but a great event for you as well. And I guess while we're putting in plugs as well, of course, this is part of Rogers' current events program called NL Direct. The show launched last year. We are, in fact, the 2 provincial hosts for it. Check it out. It covers everything provincial with a nice focus on this region in particular. Check it out. It airs on Rogers Television, Channel 9, as you all well know, but it also is on Rogers streaming platforms, rogerstv.com/Gander. And if you just get the search hot dog in the middle, just put in NL as in Newfoundland Labrador Direct, and you'll see some of our back episodes and more to come. We launched season 2 right after the elections.
You can also find us on Facebook.
Oh yeah, we're there too.
Yeah, so that then you can find out when new episodes are airing and what we're up to, because we sometimes give some behind-the-scenes looks.
So we should have our 2 candidates back here right now.
No, they get a few more minutes, Brian. It's been like 2 minutes.
They only went for a pee.
Yeah, but we told them they could have 5 minutes.
Oh, okay.
So,
We didn't think they actually meant 5 minutes, did you?
yeah, I think they did.
Of course, a special thank you to you guys as well for showing up.
Yeah.
When your name is called, by the way, the podium there is yours, the microphone. Speak nice and clearly into it, and we'll get into that in the second
Yeah,
half.
so the second half of the show will be the audience questions. Then we'll have time from some closing remarks from both of our candidates, and then we'll clue up at the end.
Okay, I think Bettina's back. Tom should be back shortly.
Absolutely, yeah. Whew, maybe I should take a break too.
Are you? You didn't drink all your water.
No, I didn't drink any.
But again, thank you to you people for showing up as well. It means a lot in a debate like this to have you here in the audience. There's nothing worse than speaking with empty chairs. And on behalf of the candidates and so on, thank you for being here. Thank you for your interest. Make sure you get out and vote. Remember, the only real show of support is your X on that ballot on the 14th. Get out and vote. Exercise your right. And enjoy. So will we call the names now in the order that they were drawn? I guess we'll go in that order. The name.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
That makes
so
sense.
That means I got to flip this pile over here. So, young fella in the front row, Mr. Saunders, if you will come to the microphone. You're not shy or anything, are you? You're not afraid of microphones or anything? Gerald Saunders. We will do our, now also you can, so let's just go through how this will work. So we welcome you back. This is the second half of our forum this evening. We have 4 residents with questions at the mic ready to go. They will each have 1 minute to ask their question, 1 minute to ask your question, and you can aim it specifically at a candidate, and then the other one will be given time to respond. Okay? So you can pinpoint or just say you don't care who jumps in or whatever. So Mr. Saunders, if you will, please.
My question is to Bettina, and I got to tell you before I start that much as we love you, this is politics. Every time I've heard Premier Hogan speak, he always ends off the mark with, and you were wondering how the PCs are going to pay for their promises. Hogan is assuming right now that the deal is signed, because every announcement that he makes, it says to be paid for from the proceeds from the Muskrat Falls. You can tell him, if he doesn't know, that it's not signed yet. And the people of the province that I'm understanding, the biggest percentage are against the proposed agreement. However, they do want an unbiased study group. And I think that he's avoiding that like you would a hornet's nest. So we want answers. And the only way to get answers is through a non-biased committee. Thank you.
So is that a question for me or a comment to bring back to Premier Hogan?
Well, both. Where do you fellows plan to get the money for all of the things that you've promised?
Okay, Bettina, we'll go to you, then we'll come to Tom.
Well, this definitely is politics. We're into the thick of it now. To see me wear red pants and a red jacket at the same time, you know I'm serious. Gerald, as for Premier Hogan and the assumption around the deal being signed, the deal will be debated in the House of Assembly. That has to be done legislatively. It's only a memorandum of understanding at this time. As for finding an unbiased panel to come together, in Newfoundland and Labrador, have any of us ever sat on a committee where there's no conflict of interest? I don't know how we find anybody unbiased in Newfoundland and Labrador, completely unbiased, to weigh in on this deal. Because lawyers and economists, they have connections and they have biases built in and who they support and whatnot. So how I feel is that when we elect and empower a government duly elected by the people, it then becomes their responsibility to make what they feel are the right decisions for the people of Newfoundland and Labrador. I know that people who've been in this province a long time feel really angry over the 1969 deal, and I would too. We were definitely cheated. But we've learned a lot from those mistakes. So when you tell me that half the people you feel are against the MOU, I've had conversations at the door with individuals, and they say things to me like, but we're back into it for another fixed price. And I say, no, we're not. It's market driven. There's an escalator clause. And then they say, but there's no way out of it. And I say, actually, there is, that it's going to be revisited. I think it's in 41 and in 51, that there's off-ramps. So there's things that we learned along the way. Maybe we haven't done a great job communicating what those benefits are, but I don't believe that half the population of Newfoundland and Labrador, as reported by you, who need services and who want to access programs, who understand that revenue can only come from so many places for government, would look at this deal, which is just generationally transforming, and say, no, we don't want to further explore this deal. I'll pass your message on to Premier Hogan, but I think we will have some lively debate in the House of Assembly, which is where this needs to go before any deal is signed.
Thank you, Bettina. Tom?
I think one of the issues that you've got to have with the MOU and the independent review that is happening, or the review that is happening right now, is when you have a Liberal insider as the head of your panel, And we're not talking someone who just voted Liberal. We're talking someone who did major work for the party. We think that independent review means exactly that, independent. We're not saying that the PC party is going to put a panel together. We're saying, let's put it to the PUB. Let the PUB decide on the proper course when it comes to looking at this MOU. Not necessarily the PUB doing the review. They may hire an external group to take care of it. But when you're looking at the fact that you've got an insider who's making a decision on whether this 50-year program or 50-year deal is going to go ahead, then I am looking at it with, I'm not sure.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Mr. Saunders.
All right, so we have our second audience question tonight from Daryl. Do you want to come up to the mic? And let's keep the question concise if we can. Thank
Thank you
you.
very much for having me here tonight. Question I want to pose to both candidates is that what I'm hearing all this spending and millions of dollars, and the money got to come from somewhere. And the easiest way is always up taxes, up taxes. But I'm not hearing no innovative or creative ways where you could generate revenue without being a burden to the taxpayers of Newfoundland and Labrador. So are you guys willing to think outside the box and come up with ways that you can do things and not be a burden to the people, but yet provide the services that you guys are making all these announcements? Because when you look at the resources we got here in this province, we should be money in the bank, but yet we're the worst in Canada when it comes to a debt ratio.
All right, thank you for the question,
Thank
Daryl.
you.
Okay, Tom, let's go to you first.
Thinking outside of the box is one thing, but staying inside the box and taking care of what you have right in front of you is another. One of the things that we need to look at is the wastage of our money that can be used for so many other things. All of the promises that we're making, yes, they have price tags to them. Of course they do. We have to look at other ways to generate our revenues. We have to ensure that the monies we have right now, such as that money that was spent on the travel nurses, are directed in the proper direction. We're not taking care of our kids' futures. We are such a resource-rich province that there's no way we should be in the position we are right now. We've got oil reserves, we've got the water, we've got the wind, we've got now the resources such as gold, that we've got to ensure that all the stakeholders in this have their proper place at the table to make sure that we run it properly.
Thank you, Tom. Bettina?
Hi, thanks, Daryl, for that question. So it is a little bit challenging when, as a candidate, I'm running for the party that's currently in power. So naturally, I'm being held to account for decisions that the most recent government has made, which is the Liberal government. But as you said, I mean, when it comes to spending and how do we generate revenue, not to burden people. So in conversations that I've had, when the Liberal government came into power, most recently following Danny Williams and the PC government at that time, I mean, it was quite a financial mess. By all accounts, after a couple of weeks, the Liberal government of the day would not have been able to pay any bills because of that mess that was left behind. Now, I mean, all governments can make missteps, but one of the things I understand Siobhan Cody did as the Minister of Finance is she went to the European market and to bonds and looked at our debt, and all of this is above my pay grade, so it was provided to me in a way that I could comprehend it as a regular person. We're currently paying $1.4 billion in our debt, which of course is way too much, but that bill would have been $2 billion if left in the same format that the PC government under Danny Williams had it established. So because the Liberal government made those changes, it resulted in an extra $600 million discretionary income. So Daryl, there are places, you're right, through policy and through looking at where the money goes and where the money comes in. But I don't mean to repeat it, but when you say, where are we going to generate revenue not to burden the people? The very deal that has come up many times this evening, the MOU and the Churchill Falls deal is not going to be a burden to the people of Newfoundland and Labrador. We're not taking on those risks. The Quebec government is, and their partners, because they're vulnerable and desperate for the clean energy.
Thank you, Bettina. Thank you, Tom. Next up, Ashley, if you would come to the podium, please.
So my question is for both candidates. Schools in Gander, like all schools across the province, are facing critical shortage of teaching staff and support staff. What's your party's plan to immediately address this province-wide crisis, and how will you help address the crisis for Gander and area schools?
Okay, Bettina, we'll let you start this one.
Thanks, Ashley, for that question. And I've really appreciated the conversations that we've had about this. As a parent who's had to navigate some of these supports in the school system, this is deeply personal to me. So when parents have to advocate for their children to see that they can succeed, it's really important. And the rally that you held today that I know both Tom and I attended, it was sad that you had to have the rally, but it was very informative and educational, I think, for people to come along and hear. So the Liberal government recently, this spring, did make a significant increase, an announcement around education, with the increase in 400 teachers as well as learning assistants. And I apologize if I get the title of the positions wrong, but they also agreed and committed to continue the $1.14 million commitment to have the equivalent of 50 full-time learning assistants or teaching assistants. One of the conversations we had today was about needs-based assessments being done at the ground level, at the school level, and it seems like there may be an opportunity there, Ashley, to revisit how that's done and how that's planned for. I know in speaking with administrators, they too want these supports. I'm getting the sense that the announcements and the money aren't trickling down the way that they need to into the classroom, and that's concerning to me and something that I'd want to learn more about. I mean, for any parent who over COVID found themselves teaching 2 children at the kitchen table, that was eye-opening, right? To think about how do teachers do this in a classroom with 30 when there are so many with needs who require extra supports. So I think it's something we're going to have to keep discussing and figure it out. And you did a really great thing by bringing this to the forefront during the election. We know it all comes up during elections, but this is when people are listening and people are fired up. Yeah.
Thank you, Bettina. Tom?
Ashley, we've spoken about this multiple times. And I always will go back to we've got to take care of those who can't take care of themselves. This is one of those scenarios that really comes to light for me, knowing family members with autism who require assistance. The school system, without those supports, are not going to do the children justice. As a PC government, the announcement was made today that we would ensure that all of those students who needed student assistance would get the proper care and coverage that we need. We're looking at ensuring that no half times, no split time for the teachers. This has to be a place where we start. And with anything, whether it's in government or business, contacting the stakeholders like yourself who have so much to gain from all of this. That's where we've got to start. I've pledged that my time as an MHA would be that I would be working for my constituents. I would be listening to you. I would not be interested in making blanket statements or blanket decisions without conducting good conversations with those who are in the know.
Thank you, Tom.
All right, so we have our last audience question of the evening. So Agnes, over to you.
I don't know if I can get up there.
I can bring, you okay?
Yeah, Gerald, if you can just bring the microphone down a little. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Takes two of us.
We've worked together for 35 years.
I think that Gerald and I are representing a segment of the population that have lived as underprivileged citizens, while our compatriots in the province of Quebec lived in luxury on our resource. What terrifies me is the part of the MOU that has some transparency is the fact that at the border of Quebec, we have to sell to Quebec our resource so that Quebec, they have shown in the past that the partnership that Joey Smallwood promised us didn't exist then. Is this the same kind of partnership we're going to get under the new agreement, where Quebec pays us pennies while they gather in billions of dollars?
Okay, thank you for your...
I am not speaking for myself at this time. I'm speaking for my grandchildren who may have to live under a similar situation that we lived under, and see how unfair this whole situation was. And we're now selling the same resource for 50 years, and we will be told how much money we will get. That's my fear for everyone in our province.
Okay, let's hear from the candidates. So Tom, I think, we've talked a lot about this topic tonight. So we're in the last 10 minutes. We will get to closing remarks, but let's finish out this MOU conversation.
Absolutely. I believe that everything we do, we have to do it for our 2-year-old. Everything in government flows through that 2-year-old, whether it's healthcare, education, safety, you name it. So we can't be making policies for the next 4 years. We've got to make it for the next 30 to 50 years. So we've got to protect our children for the next 30 to 50 years. I truly believe that when the original Churchill Falls deal was signed, someone thought it was a good deal. Someone thought that the money we're getting from this now, and I've had people at Tim Hortons say to me, I'm voting Liberal because Joey gave us money. That's a direct quote from a lady. I think we're at that point where we've still got 17 years left on that deal. And then after that, they're getting another 34. So, if I had a magic ball, I could look and say, okay, yeah, that $1 billion a year is still going to be worth that in 50 years' time. Well, it wasn't the last time, there's a really good chance it's not going to be this time. As with Quebec, yes, I know Bettina mentioned about sometime the war got to end, but do you know something? It's tough to trust something when you've been burnt so bad.
Okay, Bettina, final word on the MOU.
Yeah. I mean, think back to 1969 and think about all of the advancements we've had since 1969. Imagine being in government doing a deal. It's almost unfathomable now to think about doing a deal without access to the internet, without access to immediate knowledge about global markets, without having access to programs that can predict world energy prices years from now. I mean, I believe that's what they were doing in 1969. They did the best they could, and I agree. But many years have passed. Decades have passed since 1969. So I too agree that I want to do what's right for my children, but also I want to help provide for the senior citizens in Newfoundland and Labrador right now who need long-term care facilities, who need beds. We have an aging population. They need medication. They need home care. We have more aging population coming up behind them. We have generations of children who need to be educated, who need to receive supports, who need. So yes, I'm thinking about the 2-year-old, but I feel a leader right now in Newfoundland and Labrador has to think, how are we going to meet the needs of our entire population? So as Tom just said, 17 years in this deal and 50 years, and I get a sense somehow that the PC government feels 50 years is too long of a deal, but you want to be taking care of people 50 years from now. So this is a way that we can do that and learn from those mistakes, because the world has changed, access to information has changed, and we're a lot smarter than we were in 1969.
Okay, thank you, Bettina. So we're going to get to closing remarks. So we covered a lot, so thank you to the audience for your questions tonight. So Bettina, you have 2 minutes for closing remarks, and then we'll get to you, Tom.
So Tom, Hannah, and Brian, thank you for the conversations, and thank you for the questions from the audience as well. And just thank you to everybody who made tonight possible. I wasn't sure about the format, but I liked it in the end. Thank you to the people who are supporting me and helping me, and to my family for their support as well. Look, public service rather, has shaped my life. Yeah, I've tried to be safe too. Public service has shaped my life. So I've balanced budgets, I've advanced infrastructure, supported volunteers, boosted local businesses, helped individuals, celebrated our successes. I know how government works and how to get things done. Now I'm asking for your support to serve as your MHA for Gander District. There's a reason why all of my signs and materials list each community: Appleton, Benton, Gambo, Gander, and Glenwood. Each of them is unique with very pressing needs. We face big issues this election: healthcare, cost of living, housing, jobs, safety, supports for seniors, well-resourced schools. These aren't just policy points. They're everyday realities, needs that can be met through the MOU and a new Churchill Falls deal. This election is transformative. Under the renewed Liberal Party of Newfoundland and Labrador, led by Premier John Hogan, we have a responsible plan to pay for the services we need and what we deserve. I'm asking for your support to send me to the House of Assembly and get to work for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Bettina. All right, Tom, over to you.
Tomorrow at the advanced polls and on October 14th, Election Day, you are the ones who are going to choose what this election is about. Are you okay with secret cash bonuses? Are you okay with the greatest crime rate increase in Canada, where you no longer feel safe in your communities? Are you okay with hotel rentals and land deals that benefit friends of the government? Are you okay with $241 million wasted on travel nurses from the outside agency when local nurses cannot find permanent full-time positions at home? Are you okay with an MOU that at best lacks transparency and has Quebec eager to make a deal with us after 2 decades of not wanting to come to the table? And finally, are you okay with the worst health care in the country? My reason for running for politics is quite simple. I want to help those who can't help themselves. I want to be the voice of the constituents of Gambo, Benton, Gander, Appleton, and Glenwood that has been silent for way too long. I want each of you to feel like you've been heard. I want to be a part of a government that enacts change that will benefit all residents of Newfoundland and Labrador. The PC Party has a plan with 3 pillars: lower taxes, better health care, and safer communities. I believe that we have a solid plan to govern the province and to right the ship after the last 10 years. As your MHA, in a PC government led by Tony Wakeham, I'm here to tell you we can do better. We will do better for all of us. When you cast your vote, please vote Tom Healy as your MHA for the District of Gander. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Well, guys, this has been an absolutely great evening, and so much information, so much to be heard, and you guys, I'll tell you both, you were great. This is, like as I said, been a great opportunity tonight to hear from the candidates and to address some of the truly hot issues that are coming up that people wanted answers to.
So the Gander and Area Chamber of Commerce would like to thank all of their members who submitted questions and were so engaged leading up to getting tonight ready. So huge thank you to everyone who submitted questions. And of course, huge thank you to our live audience tonight. It always makes speaking a little more fun. Make sure, of course, you vote. As Brian mentioned, that is a huge part of being engaged politically. So hopefully you turn out and vote.
Absolutely. And of course, a big thank you to the folks at Evangel Pentecostal Church. We've been here a lot doing political things over
been a big year.
Over 6 months since we started with the federal one? It's not even that, I don't think. But a big thank you to the folks at Evangel Pentecostal Church. This is such a great room to work in. For hosting us again tonight. Thank you to Rogers TV, those great people at Rogers, Tony, Roger, and Morgan,
Yes.
and all the rest
All
of
the
you
volunteers.
guys. All the volunteers, thank you so much. We appreciate the partnerships with all this. Thank you to both of our candidates for coming out, and thank you to all of you for attending. And remember, whether it be in the advance poll or the vote on the 14th, the only true support is that X on the ballot. Make sure you get out and vote. It's a great thing to be able to do. And on that note, for all of us here at NL Direct and Rogers TV, I'm Brian Mosher.
And I'm Hannah DeYoung.
Thanks, guys.